Aladdin, one of my favorite movies of all time, and something that I would love to review today because this has so much whimsy and charm, and Robin Williams' performance as a genie is iconic and something that will live on in not just animated movie history, but movie history in general. And a great thing of, like, just good triumphing over evil, love conquering all, the great musical numbers, the great animation, the fact that they were able to encapsulate so many great characters and everything into 90 minutes, 91 minutes. And I'd love to review this. I'm not going to be reviewing this one. I'm going to be reviewing the Guy Ritchie edition. Guy Ritchie directed Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Sherlock Holmes 2, Electric Boogaloo, and the failed King Arthur movie that came out 2 years ago. And he's directing an extremely lavish production of a movie that really had a lot to live up to, because I love the animated version, as I just said. And live action remakes of something aren't necessarily all bad. The Jungle Book one was decent. It wasn't great, but it was decent. I thought it was gritty and it had some good moments. I like the Beauty and the Beast edition. That one got a lot of flack, especially from a lot of idiots, people that were claiming all stuff about a gay character and stuff like that. So whatever, that you can think that if you want, even though you're wrong. With this one, though, there's two good characters, and everything else is fucking shit. Besides how great the costumes look, the sets, and how expensive it looks, it feels so soulless. And I mean, it's almost crushingly soulless, and I know that sounds a little bit weird to say, but the animated one had so many inspired musical numbers and so many inspired scenes. Everything else here felt labored, like, okay, we have all this money, we have to get through it, but we're going to also make it almost 40 minutes longer. And I didn't quite understand that, except maybe to get the most out of their budget. Now, you wanted to expand on a couple things. I totally understand. You can do more sometimes with live action than you can with animated. And also, almost 30 years later, you've got quite a bit more technology. So, okay, what did they do with it? I will say that Mena Massoud, I hope I pronounced that right, he played Aladdin. He was very good. I would love to see him in more leading roles, American movies and stuff like that, because I know he's done other stuff. I haven't been able to see any of it. I don't think I've seen any of his work before. I was very impressed by him. He was great as Aladdin. He captured that character perfectly. The heartache, the trauma, the fact that he's grown up as a thief with only his little monkey friend Abu to be, as his, guiding light and everything, because his parents weren't around for most of his growing up. And he obviously has a very good heart, but the only way he can get by is to steal and to be comically, just funny and everything, and just deal with everything in a lighthearted way, despite the fact he's just trying to make it in this, big city where the poverty level is like insane from the royals on down. And then you have Jasmine, played by Naomi Scott, who's great, by the way. She commands your attention with her character work. She's also bright. She is beautiful. She really does look like Princess Jasmine. She's the perfect encapsulation, in my opinion, on film of Princess Jasmine. Everybody else, though, as far as a character, there's a handmaid, woman that plays a handmaid, character Dahlia. She was fine. She was a nice supporting character. Everybody else, though, was not very good. The character of Jafar in particular, and yes, I'm going to be comparing a lot of the, original to this. And I get it that not everything can be the same. Yes, I'm going to be one of those guys that complains a whole lot. But with Jafar, in the animated one, he had a booming, commanding voice. And yes, he was conniving. And yes, without his magic staff and stuff like that, he was weak. But still, he had a great, just bad guy feel to him. You wanted to see this conniving, manipulative, gruesome, thought-possessing son of a bitch get his ass kicked and get his comeuppance. And eventually he did at the end. Despite everything that he tried to, control the Sultan, all that stuff and everything. And sorry if you haven't seen the animated version. I'm not really spoiling anything. It's been almost 30 fucking years. If you haven't seen it by this point, sorry. In this version, and nothing against the actor playing Jafar, he was in the Mummy, version that Tom Cruise was in. He's not a bad actor. He just wasn't very good in this role. Like, this was not very well done from the very first time that he was there till the very last scene when he, let power corrupt him absolutely. I never got the impression. He didn't really speak to me as a villain. He wasn't very convincing. The villain in Ready Player One was actually more convincing than this. And that one wasn't convincing at all. And also, I'm just going to say the musical numbers were very uninspired, not very good. I didn't really care for a lot of it. The pacing of them wasn't very good. The stunt work and everything and all that, and most of the special effects look good. There were some special effects that looked kind of sloppy, which made me wonder if they just rushed this thing out the door. But clearly there was, I think, good intentions behind this project, but it just didn't ultimately work. And I will say, in closing, before I get to spoilers, that I did not like Will Smith's character. I didn't, and I like Will Smith. I think Will Smith is a pretty fabulous actor. He has shown great dramatic chops, great comedic chops, and in a lot of movies. This just didn't work, and nothing was going to live up to Robin Williams' character. But his comedy was so forced, it was not good. I just didn't find him very entertaining. I really just didn't, so it was not a very enjoyable movie. It really wasn't, and I wanted to like it. I wanted to be wrong about it, because initially I was like, okay, this is going to be terrible. And even the look of the genie wasn't all that goddamn good. Now, that's just my personal opinion, but, it's my review. I can't speak for anybody else. So anyway, I'm going to get into spoilers right here. So yeah, we're just past 6 minutes. So if you're still watching, sorry, 3, 2, 1, go. So you start in the beginning. You have Will Smith's character as human. Instead of the genie, he's telling a story on a boat to his 2 children while his wife is there. And that's the handmaid, because they tie this story together by the genie falling in love with the handmaid. And that's a nice little side story that wasn't in the other one, and which was fine. You gotta have some fun, and if you're gonna make this, about an extra 40 minutes, you gotta have more fun with it, or add some extra story. But that it wasn't a bad side plot, but it wasn't anything necessarily where it's like, okay, I'm glad they had that. I didn't hate it, but it was what it was. So he tells the story of Aladdin and Princess Jasmine. And a couple of the songs were fine, but like that Arabian Nights opening song by Will Smith, not very good. Friend Like Me was not very good. And like, Prince Ali, I'm sorry. When I saw that, I was like, oh, sweet Christ, I am in so much trouble. Again, it looked cool, but maybe it's just that whole, that whole thing, things were better when I was younger or whatever. You kids get off my lawn, this kind of stuff. Leave my shit alone. I don't blame anybody if they liked this movie. I just didn't. And Will Smith, I'm taking aim right at his character. It just wasn't good. Now, do I think that he deserves all the hate that he's gotten? No, because he has built up a good body of work. Still doesn't apologize for After Earth happening, but then again, M. Night Shyamalan didn't apologize for it happening, which was not a very good movie between Will Smith and Jaden. And Jaden is an actor. Jaden is a human being, whatever. This was not really that good. You get the stuff with Aladdin and Jasmine, where Aladdin saves Jasmine after she almost gets her hand cut off, by giving bread from a shop to somebody, or 2 children, because she is out among the people and everything, trying to see how people live as royalty. She wants to help her people, but she doesn't know how, because she's always locked up in the palace. And then you got Jafar being conniving, but just not very convincing. And even the Cave of Wonders, that whole scene where, they bring somebody there, it's supposed to be the diamond in the rough, and that ends up collapsing, and that person ends up dying, and Jafar is panicked, and Iago, my main issue is Iago felt like such an afterthought. He was not really much of anything. I mean, and he was a nice little side character in the, sidekick in the first one, but he had personality, and he had good comedic timing, and yeah, Gilbert Gottfried was a pretty good voice for him. I don't know who the fuck did the voice for him here, but they made that character feel so non-existent and so unnecessary, and I was very, very disappointed by that. I didn't understand how with almost extra 40 minutes you could make so many other characters feel so just Like the Jafar character didn't feel very inspired. And once the thing got going with the genie, it went downhill. And I'm sorry, I know that that's the main selling point, but Will Smith just was not very good. The musical numbers just were not very good. Whenever it was Naomi Scott and, whenever it was Aladdin and Jasmine, basically, whenever it was those 2 characters, things picked up. Things got better because they were the 2 they were the 2 most important characters, but also they were the 2 best actors in the goddamn movie. I mean, sorry, they just were. They were the 2 most likable characters and all that. It had some moments. Production, the Jasmine, Aladdin characters, but a lot of it wasn't really that inspired. It just really wasn't. Now, Talking about stuff later in the movie, they push this whole thing of empowering, where Jasmine feels like she can lead the country, she can be the first female sultan, and no, back in this time, no, women can't lead or whatever. She has to marry a prince, this kind of stuff. And again, I want to say a lot of the comedy felt really forced. It felt like they almost were performing it in a vacuum, which I didn't really care for. And skipping ahead, because not knowing the details of the story are not going to haunt you till your dying days, and also it's pretty easy to figure out the details. Just watch the animated movie, and you've essentially seen this, just with some more fleshed out stuff, and some worse acting, and worse characters, and a worse genie. Sweet fucking Christ, that genie, so bad. So near the end, they got the whole thing where, Jafar gets, he becomes a sultan, and he becomes a sorcerer because he gets a hold of the lamp. And then he becomes an all-powerful being, an all-powerful genie. But because he becomes a genie, he is suddenly trapped. Because a genie without a master goes back in the lamp. So a lamp gets created, he goes in there, Iago goes in there. Please don't create a sequel is all I'm going to say. But yeah, okay, Will Smith gets freed, his character gets freed, he goes off with the handmaid. That's great. And Aladdin's like, well, I lied all this time about being a prince, so there's no way Jasmine's going to want to be with me. So he leaves, and then Jasmine basically gets made the sultan. Now, I didn't necessarily have an issue with this, but I see why some people might. They did push the whole initiative of like women, agenda of women being, strong, stronger than men and this kind of stuff. And in this case, I sort of got it. Did they beat you over the head with it? Yeah, a little. Disney tends to beat you over the head with quite a few things. But I thought the way they did it wasn't bad. I mean, yeah, some people aren't going to like it. I didn't mind it. I just wanted to address that right here. But then she talks to Aladdin and everything. And of course, they end up bonding and they end up marrying, this kind of stuff. And everything is an all happy ending. I also want to just say that there was a cool dance number at one point, which was kind of cool. It was at a party. Yeah, Jasmine kind of pseudo belly dancing with, a bunch of other women with the guys and stuff like that while the guys dance, and that was fine. But everything else about it, it's just the comedy was forced. Everything, a lot of it was just really forced, and I didn't generally enjoy, outside of a few things, I didn't generally enjoy a whole lot of this. I'm not going to say I hated the movie, but I'm going to say D+. I mean, there is a poll up there. I probably put it up earlier in the video. But it just wasn't very good. And I was very disappointed by that because I wanted to like it. I wanted this to remind me a little bit of the childhood. And there was a little twinge of nostalgia, but not enough. So again, the Aladdin character, the Jasmine character, those were great. Cool production. Everything else is pretty much a goddamn wash. And please don't make a goddamn sequel. But anyway, that is what I have to say. What do you have to say? Agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I am John Ritlin. I will see you soon.